What's up, guys? Mikey McNuggets here. Solo edition of the Ultimate Cavaliers Show tonight. Jason is at his kid's baseball game. I spent way too much time breaking down some James Borrego tape, and I'm going to break that down in detail as to why I think it fits with the Cavs coming up. Plus, we're going to talk about some draft prospects that have caught my eye over the last few days, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about some of the Darius Garland trade scenarios and the conundrum the Cavs are facing. I'm calling this the state of the Cavs for the week of June 10th, because we're going to dive into it all. And it starts right now on the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. Hey, what's up, guys? Appreciate everybody tuning in on a Wednesday night, an hour before tip-off of Game 3 of the NBA Finals. So I'm sure we'll all be watching that in a little bit. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want me to address at the end, put it in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I'll give some shout-outs as we wrap this bad boy up in a little bit. But I'll get to all the viewer comments, questions, concerns, shout-outs, all that at the end of the show. Don't think I'm ignoring it. I just can't watch it, break down, film, and think all at the same time. I am human. So the three big things we're going to cover tonight: why James Borrego has surpassed Kenny Atkinson and Mike Inori as my personal choice for the next head coach of the Cavs. Some prospects I think have caught my eye in watching film and talking to guys as potential fits for the Cavs, and the DG trade conundrum, which I've gone back and forth on, and I've finally come to a conclusion. So we're going to get to all of that. But let's start first and foremost with the Cavs head coaching search. If you guys watched the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today, we technically broke some news when I said that Mike Inori was being brought back to Cleveland on Thursday for an in-person interview. Brian Windhorst then tweeted it out a few hours later, but not to toot my own horn, you heard it here first. So it comes down to three finalists for the Cavs in terms of in-person second interviews: James Borrego, Kenny Atkinson, and Mike Inori. And Mike Inori is a big unknown. He's had a great track record of developing big men throughout his career, but he's never been a head coach, so it's hard to know exactly how he'd run a system or what he would do when he has such a diverse, complex background of other coaches' influences, which is perfectly normal for a first-time head coach, which Mike Inori would be. We know what Kenny Atkinson ran in Brooklyn, and now he's been with Golden State for the last few years, and I'm sure it's a deviation and a combination of what he ran in Brooklyn, what he ran in Golden State. But I'm not just quite sure it 100% fits the Cavs' current roster makeup. And Kobe Altman is standing on business, continuing to tell everybody, we don't want to break up the core four. Now, there's a very good chance that is just posturing. There's very possible that he is just saying that to help drive up the value. It does him no benefit to actually come out and say Darius and Jarrett or Donovan or Evan or whoever's on the trade block, because that just lowers their value. So I understand why he's doing that. Whether he's telling the truth or not, we'll find out in the coming weeks. But for the sake of this, the Cavs are going to make a coaching hire with the core four still intact. And with that in mind, watching what James Borrego did in Charlotte over the course of his 4 seasons there, to me, makes him a pretty damn good fit for what the Cavs need to do offensively to unlock the potential of what this core four, theoretically speaking, could be. Now, a little background on James Borrego, because I actually wasn't as familiar as I should have been with Borrego when this process started. Here's a simple bio. He's currently New Orleans' top assistant. He's their offensive coordinator. He coached the Hornets from 2018 to 2022. During that stretch, he had a record of 148 and 183. He did win 2 NBA championships with San Antonio as an assistant. He got fired following the 2021-2022 season, partly because he didn't see eye to eye with Michael Jordan, and partly because they didn't feel, and by they I mean Charlotte ownership, that Borrego was the right guy to keep this young, kind of firecracker locker room with all their young personalities under control. And if you look at that locker room, it was LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, Terry Rozier, Devonta Graham, a bunch of guys that have not had the greatest track record with coaches in their careers. So I'm not going to blame James Borrego for not being able, as a first-time head coach, to corral all those big personalities. I think most coaches would have failed in that situation. But what I really like about James Borrego, and from an offensive standpoint, why I think it fits perfectly into what the Cavs should be trying to do more of in 2024, is this. He plays and he preaches an unselfish, up-tempo brand of basketball that focuses on the most efficient shots in basketball. Corner threes and attempts at the rim. I'm going to give you some stats. I talked about this on the show today, but I'm going to give you these stats, and then I'll break down some film, show you some of his favorite sets and how I think that fits with Cleveland. In 3 of his 4 seasons with the Charlotte Hornets, Charlotte finished in the top 10 in three-point attempts. 2 of the 4 seasons, they finished top 10 in three-point makes, which is a hell of a testament considering the caliber of shooters that James Borrego was coaching in Charlotte. In his final season, and to give a little context, in his second season, the Hornets won 23 games. In his third season, the Hornets won 33 games. In his fourth season, the Hornets won 43 games. That's a 10-win increase in back-to-back-to-back seasons. That's no joke. Now, I don't think they would have won 53 games the following year, but a 10-win improvement with that roster and going 43 and 39, that's pretty damn good considering LaMelo Ball was the best player on your team. The guy can coach. Whether he can control a locker room or not, that remains to be seen. But if he steps into Cleveland, the Cleveland locker room and the maturity of the guys in that locker room are on a completely different level than what he was dealing with in Charlotte. During his last season in Charlotte, in which they won 43 games and lost in the play-in tournament, the Hornets finished that season second in the NBA in points per game with 115.2 points per game. They finished 4th in three-point makes per game at 14 threes per game. 6th in three-point percentage. They shot 36.5% as a team. Number 1 in assists that season. Number 1 in assists, 28 per game, and number 9 in offensive rebounds. With a roster that lacked a true star. With a roster that was middle of the pack at best in overall offensive talent. In 2021-2022, Borrego's last season in Charlotte, they finished 8th overall in offensive rating, 3rd in assist percentage, 2nd in assist-to-turnover ratio. They had the 6th quickest pace in the entire NBA. They finished 3rd in the NBA in shots at the rim and 2nd in corner threes. Guys, that's impressive. And it's not just volume, it's efficiency. And to get good looks for guys who are mediocre to okay, they're a little better than mediocre, but they're not great. To get that level of efficiency from a group of players like that is no slight feat. I mentioned this on the show as well. We talked about JB's lack of X's and O's coming out of timeout and his ability to drop certain plays when the Cavs needed a bucket. What could he do? Well, in that last season for James Borrego in Charlotte, in their half-court offense, they were not very good. They averaged .903 points per possession. That was 29th in the NBA, second to last. However, after timeouts, after quarters, after jump balls, essentially when he had a chance to draw something up on the whiteboard and say, hey, you go here, we're going to run this, and we're going to execute it like this, they averaged .983 points per possession, 10th in the NBA. 0.8 of a point better in an out-of-timeout scenario as opposed to a half-court offensive scenario. That is tangible coaching, ladies and gentlemen. Tangible coaching. He wants to play with pace. He wants you to be unselfish. And he's focused on getting corner threes and shots at the rim, the 2 most efficient shots in basketball. Now you may ask, how's he doing that? We're going to go through some video clips here to give you a little context on some of the plays that he loved to run in Charlotte. And some of these plays he was running with Devonta Graham and Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball. And when I'm showing you guys this, think in your head of how Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen would execute in these situations. And tell me you don't get excited in the same way I get excited when I watch some of this action. All right, so we're going to run through some of these plays. The first is what he likes to do most, and this is essentially an Iverson cut to a veer screen up top, which allows your 2 ball handlers to both be involved in the action, and it sets up a bunch of different options for your secondary ball handler. So an Iverson cut, you'll see Gordon Hayward cut across 2 high screens at the elbow, foul line extended, that's an Iverson cut, and then a veer cut is a high pick at the top of the key where the other offensive player can go either strong side or weak side, and you'll see this play out. There's a couple plays in a row, and then I'll highlight a couple things. Hayward gets it. Veer cut for Rozier, comes off, wide open 3. Tons of space. Check the backside spacing. Here's the LaMelo Ball coming off that same Iverson cut. They have a weak side and a strong side screen for the veer. Rozier comes off the strong side, gets another 3. Same example. LaMelo passes to the top, runs the Iverson cut. Comes back off the veer, little rotation. Miles Bridges, step back 3. And one more here. Same motion. You'll see Graham. Now he comes off with the Iverson cut. The veer screen set high. Graham drives, kicks out, and then it's one-on-one basketball with good spacing. That leads back to a corner kick for a 3. I'm going to slow some of these down, and show you guys. So there's Gordon Hayward, right? And right there, this is what I mean by a veer cut. You have all the space with Hayward driving, so the help side defender has to be in help position. And that puts Lauri Markkanen, who's the defender who you can't see right behind the screener, in a pickle. Do I help on the drive with Hayward, or do I go with my man setting the veer screen up top? He decides to go with Hayward, not help, and that's going to lead into a wide-open Terry Rozier catch-and-shoot three. Imagine Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell running this action. All right, you're going to get, here's Darius with the ball. He drives. If you don't help, that's a one-on-one drive with Darius or Donovan. If you do help, it's going to leave the veer screen open, and that's a wide-open three, catch-and-shoot for Darius, for Donovan, for Max Strus. LeVert, I think, could be really effective in this Iverson cut action. You don't have to kick it back to the veer. If you have one-on-one, and you'll see in the next play, it gives the potential for a one-on-one situation. It's essentially a whole side of the court cleared out. Watch this one here. As Devontae Graham comes across the court on the Iverson. You're going one-on-one and a half here, but that's an attacking, advantageous position for the offensive player. Donovan, Darius, Karis, that's all positions for them to succeed here. And if the defense on the weak side gets lazy, you come around and now you have another isolated in rotation one-on-one to attack from. So that's one of the things that James Borrego likes to do that I think would fit what the Cavs do offensively, personnel-wise, to a T. Another thing he likes to do, we saw JB Bickerstaff do this a ton this year, was pick and roll. It's the staple of every offense in the NBA. There's nothing special here. But check out the weak side clear, the strong side clear, that Borrego utilized in Charlotte. A bunch of these plays come from the bubble, by the way. That's how long ago I was digging through some of these playbooks to find you some of the stuff Borrego likes to do. The first one's in a little slow motion. They set a slip screen to start. It's called the ghost screen. And then you're going to have Miles Bridges. And as you see Miles Bridges come to set this screen, under the basket for the guy who would be in the corner. The Cavs would have this guy stand in the corner the whole time. In Borrego's system, he likes to have him clear out strong side on a screen here from, I can't tell who that player is, so that it clears the paint, which puts the defense in a conundrum. And you're going to see here on back-to-back plays how that's effective. Always starts with a little ghost screen. In this case, it's Gordon Hayward. Miles Bridges comes, sets a screen. You see on the backside, the shooter comes off, and that puts Joel Embiid in a pickle. Do I chase the screener and give up an open three, or do I stay in the paint to avoid the lob? It happens here again. Another lob. It's because the backside is clearing out, which just gives a little extra space for the ball handler to work. Slip screen. You're going to see him get to the three this time. The help side defender doesn't rotate quick enough, and you have an open three. Imagine this pick and roll action. We're going to run through a couple more times, but imagine this pick and roll action with Darius or Donovan, and instead of having Devontae Graham or Rozier come off the backside, you have Max Strus coming off the backside for the Cavaliers. It's another little fake set to get into the same essential action here. This time it's a little roll to P.J. Washington, gets the layup. We're going to freeze frame these again. Here's the slow motion one. Hayward with the slip. One thing to keep in mind, let's say this is Darius with the ball, and Donovan sets the ghost screen. You can swing it to Donovan here, and he's got one-on-one with half the floor clear because you have the baseline cutter coming to the opposite corner. So that's another option in this offense that you don't really see because of the clips I picked. There's your screen. There's your baseline screener or shooter coming off the screen. If you're the big man, what do? You're in a pickle. It's little adjustments like this, and it's the same thing's going to happen on all four clips, that make the defense think and have to make these split-second decisions. He had both options there. He had the lob or the three-pointer. Here he goes to the three. Watch how the help side defender in the pick and roll, it's Pascal Siakam in this point guarding the screen and Kyle Lowry on the bottom, gets caught on the screen, boom. That's Max Strus. That's the catch-and-shoot movement that Max Strus got his contract in Cleveland with to a T. It's little plays like this that I think Borrego has in his playbook that benefit what the Cavs have currently on its roster. It's a, I don't want to say a match made in heaven, but it makes a lot of sense. Another play, he liked to use this little elbow give and go, and then I'll show you the counters to the give and go next. For this particular sequence, imagine this is Donovan Mitchell with the ball for these plays. Simple elbow give and go, gets ahead of steam driving. Hayward misses the layup. Donovan's much better than Gordon Hayward. You'll see the same thing. This is Malik Monk back from 2020. Little give and go. Defense has to communicate. Those plays run back and forth. Now, you say that's super basic. The defense will counter. Well, of course they'll counter, and here's what the Cavs or Borrego would do to counter that. How about you're playing high side? We'll go back door. Simple read and react. Donovan is as good as any player in the league at creating space and creating passing lanes off the dribble. LaMelo Ball did a great job in that scenario. Here's another option. That veer screen we talked about, there it is again, just from a different set. Donovan drives. Picture Donovan in this situation. Gets the screen. Darius from that passes to him. Darius kicks back. Mobley or Allen sets the screen, and you got a one-on-one opportunity with Darius, Karras, Donovan, however you want to split it. This time it's going to go to a little, another veer screen, but then P.J. Washington's going to drive. Same situation. It makes the defense make these quick reads and reactions. And if they don't, you have a 4-on-3 advantage. This is a fake veer into a weak side or strong side, whatever you want to call it, pick and roll, catch the defense in rotation. And Borrego's system is all about just playing basketball. He's going to put you in situations where you have a numerical advantage, and it comes down to the players to just go out there and play basketball. There's little nuances to the offense he runs. It's not recreating the wheel. It's just making the wheel run a little more efficiently than it does on a basic level. Here's a dribble handoff into the corner, and then Rozier goes one-on-one. There's about 38 different variations off this little give-and-go action, but it all starts looking the same, and when it starts looking the same, it's much harder to guard because you don't know what's coming. And the Cavs' offense was super predictable last year. Let's call a spade a spade. Borrego's offense is anything but that. And with some of the players the Cavs have currently on the roster, whether they make big-time moves or not, I think what James Borrego wants to run at the premise of his offense, at the most basic principles of his playbook, fit pretty well with what the Cavs' offensive skill sets currently are. And it utilized P.J. Washington in a playmaker role. I can envision Evan Mobley doing that. It utilized Donovan and Darius and all those guys in situations that we didn't necessarily see them have to make decisions on the fly like they would in this system, but I think they're capable of. And when I look at what Borrego wants to do versus what Atkinson wants to do versus what Mike and Nori theoretically would want to do based off his track record and the coaches he's worked with in the past, I just think James Borrego fits what the Cavs need in this next head coach more. So I am officially planting my flag on June 12th at 7:47 p.m. in the James Borrego camp. I know they interviewed Kenny Atkinson. I know they're also going to talk to Mike and Nori tomorrow, but Mikey McNuggets is firmly in the James Borrego camp to be the next head coach of your Cleveland Cavaliers. Guys, as always, FanDuel is an official sponsor of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. And summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And there's no better place to bet on it all than FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from finals MVPs to who's going to hit one out of the park. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA draft is coming up in less than 3 weeks. Less than 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from today. Excuse me. It is 2 weeks from today. I thought today was the 13th for some reason. And from talking to a couple of my buddies across the league, from doing some expansive deep dives into what some prospects bring to the board, I am feeling better and better about the Cavs' chance to land an impact player with the 20th pick in the draft. There was a rumor going around today that the Cavs may want to move up in this draft. Kevin O'Connor, who's super plugged in, was on the Ringers NBA draft show and mentioned the Cavs could be a team looking to move up in the draft. Who knows? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. It's a weird draft. It'll cost a lot less to move up in this draft than it would at a traditional draft. So maybe they have a guy they like more that they don't think will be at 20, but I have absolutely no idea if that rumor has any validity or not. But there are a couple guys who we've mentioned before and a couple guys who have now entered my radar who I think make a lot of sense for the Cavs at number 20. We'll start with Tristan Da Silva. We've spoken about him before. 6'9" wing out of Colorado. I call him just a connector, a glue guy, a guy who could fit into almost any lineup, can give you a little bit of everything. He's not great at anything, but he's good at a lot of things. And at 6'9", with relatively good athleticism, he can shoot a little bit, he can handle, he can facilitate, he can defend, he can rebound. His issue is he's 23 years old. So the player you're drafting is essentially the player that he's going to be. He may get a little better, but guys who get drafted at 23 don't typically make another giant jump in their NBA career. So that's why he's not higher on the draft board. But he's a guy I think fits the Cavs' need and is in their range. A guy I was talking to with some league sources the other day who has got rave reviews from workouts is Keyshawn George out of Miami. He's a guy who, when we did our prospects to know list, ironically, he was second because I just thought he fit from a size and athleticism standpoint what the Cavs needed, but I didn't know a whole lot about him. And after talking to guys who have seen him work out in person during this pre-draft process, they have all come away duly impressed with Kaishan George. Says he's a better shooter than he showed in college and has a little more of a handle than I thought any of us believed he could have. So Kaishan George is a guy who has now entered my radar. He's 6'7", one-and-done freshman out of Miami. He wasn't a super high recruit, not a top 5 guy like a Brandon Ingram or a Jason Tatum or a Zion was coming out of high school, but a guy who had a productive freshman season at Miami who may actually be a better pro than he was a college player. We see that a bunch, actually. Guys who go into college and they're a little athletically more developed than skill-wise, and once the skill set then catches up to the athleticism, they become a better overall player. And it happens in the NBA a lot, and it doesn't always happen when they're 18, 19 years old in college. So Kaishan George, another guy I think fits what the Cavs are looking for. Tyler Smith is a guy we've mentioned. He's got crazy upside, but he could also be an absolute nothing. But at the 20th pick for the Cavs, I think you could take a chance on a guy with crazy upside if he's the best player available in your mind, just because this whole draft's a crapshoot. At 20, you can get an absolute dud or you get an absolute stud. And Tyler Smith has the ceiling of an absolute stud, another big wing. We know the Cavs have some shooting issues with their bigs. Mobley's not a three-point shooter yet. He may become one, but he certainly is not one yet. Jared Allen will never become a three-point shooter. And when we talk about splitting the bigs up because you need more spacing, a lot of people assume that means moving Mobley to the 5. I don't think that has to be the case. If you can find a 5 who can shoot, then Mobley can stay at the 4. And frankly, I think Mobley's single best skill set, the thing he's better than anyone else, well, not anyone else, but the thing that he's better than anything else at is his ability to play free safety on defense and just wreak absolute havoc on opponents trying to get to the rim when he's not the primary rim defender who's sitting in the paint. It's like Giannis in Milwaukee. Part of the reason Giannis is so effective defensively is Brook Lopez is the guy that defenders are worried about. He's got his hands up in the paint, and then Giannis comes out of nowhere and smacks that shit to the third row. That's what Evan Mobley does, just in a little different fashion. And part of the reason he's so efficient defensively is because Jared Allen's the guy in the middle who they have to kind of worry about in the first line of defense, and then Mobley just gobbles up everything else. With that being said, if you could find a center who can shoot, Mobley could stay at the 4, and you can keep what Mobley does best defensively without having him play the 5 offensively, and you can have the 5 be the guy who spreads. A guy out of Indiana, I believe it's pronounced Kyle Ware or Kale Ware, is a guy that intrigues the absolute hell out of me. This guy has all the potential in the world. He's 7 foot. He's athletic. He can shoot. He can dribble. If you took just what he does on the basketball court, he's a top 5 pick in this draft, unquestioned. There's some mental question marks about Ware. How committed is he? How much does he really want it? Does he love basketball? The same mental questions you get with a bunch of top prospects in every draft, every year, in every sport. There was the DeJuan Jones dilemma, and we've seen how DeJuan Jones has turned out for the Browns through one season. He looks much more promising than a 4th-round pick. Ware's a guy that talent-wise fits perfectly next to Evan Mobley. If you believe, and I've never spoken to the guy, I'm just telling you what I've heard and what I've read. If you believe the mental side isn't there, how would the mental pairing of a guy like that plus Evan Mobley, who's a more passive player, work in the front court? That's a giant question mark. But from a skill set standpoint at number 20, I think it's a risk I'd be willing to take. Kyle Ware is another guy to Indiana I like. Kyle Filipowski, a guy from Duke, who may not have the highest of high ceilings, but I think is a pretty polished player in his own right already coming out of Duke, is a guy I think makes sense. Another spread the floor big. He's 6'11", 6'10". He can shoot. I think he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player. Someone compared him to Kelly Olynyk, which I think is a pretty apt comparison. I saw someone compare him to Jabari Smith. He's not that level of player. He's not that shooter, but he's kind of a watered-down Jabari Smith. I think he makes sense at number 20 if he's still there. He wouldn't be my first choice, but he was a guy initially I was like, I'm kind of out on. And the more I've seen and the more workouts I've heard about his pre-draft process, the more I'm buying in a little bit. I think he's a better shooter than he got credit for. And then this one, Zach Edey, I'm just telling you, has been crushing workouts. I have no idea or how effective he'll be at the NBA level. He may be way too slow and he may be efficient offensively, but he has no chance defensively. I have no idea. I'm just telling you from guys I talk to, he is absolutely crushing workouts and he's a better shooter than anyone thinks he actually is because he never shot in college. Purdue said, you're not shooting threes. He says he couldn't shoot. From the workouts I've been told about, he's a better shooter than they all expected. Is that a good enough shooter to take shots in an NBA game? We'll see, but he's a better shooter. And Zach Edey's a guy who has been crushing workouts, and I was not anticipating that when the pre-draft process started. So a couple new names to keep an eye on. Keyshawn George out of Miami, Kyle Ware out of Indiana, Filipowski. Deron Holmes is another guy. Not necessarily the spacing big the Cavs need, but he's just an intriguing prospect out of Dayton. And Ware's the guy I'm really keeping my eye on. I think he could be an intriguing pairing next to Evan Mobley. And even if Jared Allen sticks around, he could be the 4 that stretches the floor. But just a guy to keep in mind with immense talent. All right, we're going to get to our last segment of the show before we get to fan questions. But a quick reminder that we are always on YouTube 11 to 1, Monday through Friday, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If you're watching this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Help us get this content out to everybody who wants quality Cavs content on the internet. It costs $0 and 0 cents. And it takes 1 second, and I would really appreciate it. So if you could do that, help me out, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. All right, let's talk Darius Garland trades for 1 sec, because we did the 8 hypothetical Darius Garland trades on Tuesday, and then I was thinking about it, and I proposed these 8 trades, and I told you I talked to an Eastern Conference coach, I talked to a Western Conference coach. I spent a lot of time putting those together, and I didn't even necessarily give my opinion on them. I just thought, would you do these trades? And the more I think about it, the more I think, unless you're getting a legitimate all-star caliber talent back, like a Cat, Ingram, depends on how you view Ingram, but he would fit in the category for the sake of this discussion. I don't think trading Darius Garland raises the Cavs' championship ceiling more than getting Darius Garland back to peak Darius Garland does. And I say that with the caveat of knowing all fair and well that little guards in the playoffs typically don't succeed. And when you're a defensive liability like Darius Garland is, you are going to get hunted possession after possession after possession in the playoffs. I understand and I hear all of those concerns. But when I'm looking at the trade packages that I was trying to put together for Darius Garland, the Cavs don't need picks. And getting the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 4 pick in this year's draft doesn't fit their current timeline. Like, if Donovan signs an extension, guys, which I do believe he will, it doesn't mean he's going to be here for 4 or 5 more years. Like, it guarantees he's here for 1 extra year, but there's no guarantee that he's here for the entirety of the extension. I mean, he signed the extension in Utah and then asked out. It's like the most common thing in the league now. Sign, get your money, and then ask out a year later. And the Cavs championship window is kind of like right now, like the next year or two. And then it'll be a whole different team. And I'm not saying they can't win after that, but I'm saying, like, right now, they've kind of pushed all their chips in. Like, you don't fire your coach after making the second round of the playoffs if you don't expect to be even better the following year. You fired JB Bickerstaff because you're ready to take that next step from a second-round playoff team to a conference championship or an NBA Finals appearance or hopefully an NBA championship team. You don't make that move to then draft a guy in a bad draft, 2nd or 3rd overall, and let him develop for 3-4 years. Hell, we just saw with Evan Mobley. Like, their timeline when they got Donovan was accelerated, and Kobe Altman admitted this offseason after they lost to the Boston Celtics that they put Mobley's development on the back burner, which is crazy in a sense. I understand why he said it and what he meant by it, but it's just a crazy thought to draft a guy 3rd overall and then put his development to the side as you try to compete and win for championships. Those two things have to be tied together in a more cohesive way than the Cavs had executed over the last 3 seasons. So I don't think any of the packages where it's Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and 4 like really raises the Cavs championship ceiling. Keldon Johnson's an undersized guard, for example. We're already mad that Darius Garland and Donovan don't work as 2 undersized guards. Johnson provides less playmaking than Darius Garland, and he's undersized. He's 6'3". He's not a traditional, 2 guard. He's an undersized 2. Sohan can play, but he's taller Isaac Okoro at the moment. He has higher and more potential than Okoro. And the 4th pick, whoever you're getting, he's not going to be ready right away. Like, does that raise your championship ceiling? I don't think so. And I think Darius, coming off his worst season, his value's at an all-time low. And if you are eventually going to trade Darius Garland, who's under contract for 3 more years, it just makes more sense to let him try and rebound, get his value back up, and then make the deal if you come to the conclusion that the pairing of him and Donovan Mitchell simply does not work. The Cavs don't have to listen to Clutch. If Clutch says trade Darius, if you bring back Donovan, the Cavs are no way obliged, and they do not have to actually make that move. Jason said it 100 times. You're going to play a pissing match with Rich Paul, which is a scary preposition. But the Cavs made a move like that similarly in the past, and it backfired and bit them in the ass. And I would hope they learn from their mistakes in that regard. We'll see if they do or don't, but I would hope they learn from their mistakes. I just think at the end of the day, the Cavs, to reach their fullest potential, and that aspiration's a championship, starts with Donovan Mitchell being a top 10 player in the league. He's right on the fringe, but he has to be a sustained top 10 player in the league. It starts, or second starts, with Evan Mobley developing some sort of consistent three-point shot. And then thirdly, it comes down to, is Darius the Darius we saw this year? Is Darius the guy we saw before this season, before the broken jaw, before the passing of his grandmother? And can he get back to that form? And I just think Darius at that form puts the Cavs closer to reaching their ultimate goal than a collection of role players and picks that may turn into guys who can contribute and also could turn into absolute nothings. I mean, you tell me, how confident are you that in a weird, wonky, crazy, historically bad draft, how confident are you that Kobe Altman will get a guy who can come in and contribute? You tell me. Like, that's a serious question. You can tell me. I'm open to all suggestions. I'm open to ears. I don't think he's done a terrible job drafting, but I certainly don't think he's hit home runs on all his picks. Isaac Okoro was a top 5 pick. That's a single. Darius Garland was a top 5 pick. We're talking about potentially trading him. Evan Mobley has not reached his unicorn status. Like, he's by no means perfect. His track record is not perfect. It's not bad, but it is not perfect by any means. So I'm just not selling on a guy at this point who I think if you were to trade this summer, you're accepting 3/4 for $1. You're giving up the best player in the deal for a collection of role guys. And as we see in the NBA Finals right now, role guys are good, but stars and key legitimate players win you championships. Look at the Celtics. It's Drew Holiday. It's Jaylen Brown. It's Tatum. It's Porzingis. It's Derek White. Those guys aren't role players. I guess they're technically role players because Tatum and Brown are the stars. But those guys are not in the same category as a Keldon Johnson or a Tari Eason or Kyle Kuzma. Like, it's different levels to this. And Darius has a chance, keyword has a chance, to be in the levels with a Derek White or a Drew Holiday, in that 30 to 40 best players in the NBA range. And I don't think the role players do. So when I'm looking at the overall construction of this team, it's a leap of faith to do what I'm doing, but I don't see a trade out there that makes the Cavs significantly better unless they're getting a Karl Anthony Towns or a Brandon Ingram or legitimate all-star back. If you get Mikal Bridges, yeah, Darius, I love you, but bye. If you can get Cat, peace out. For the right deal, he is movable. I am not saying he's untradeable. I am totally open to trading him for the right deal. But I just can't find the right deal right now. And I don't think picks fit the Cavs timeline, and I just don't think role players add up to be enough to raise the championship caliber and the championship ceiling of this Cavs team as Darius Garland in peak form is. So despite spending hours on the trade machine this weekend coming up with those Darius Garland trades, unless you're getting Cat or Ingram or Mikal Bridges or someone of that level back, I ain't doing it. All right, let's get to some viewer comments here. I see 30 in the chat. We're going to get through as many as we can. Excuse me. Plasma Void, what's up? Levin Dupero says, I'm hoping the Cavs make Borrego their coaching ego. I agree. He's my number one choice. Creative Juice, what's up? Gabby, Miss Nuggets, what's up? Appreciate Miss Nuggets for tuning in here. Ian says, if Mitchell respects him, the rest of the guys will fall in line. One more thing, Ian, great point. One more thing I forgot to mention with Borrego and Atkinson. Anthony Davis came out, and he was coached by Borrego earlier in his career. They crossed paths for a year. Davis came out and was campaigning for the Lakers to hire Borrego. He said he loved his time with James. in New Orleans, and he thought he was an offensive innovator, and he wanted the Lakers to hire him because of some of the things that Borrego did when he was there. LeVert and Jared Allen played for Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn. And unless I missed it, I don't know if those two have come out and publicly campaigned for Atkinson. They may love Kenny Atkinson. I'm just literally speculating. They may love Atkinson. I have no idea. But they haven't said anything. So you could read into that as something or nothing. I have no idea. But you're right. If Mitchell buys in, the rest of the team buys in. 100% valid. Plasma Void said, it's interesting to learn how much of the movement is intentional and precise. When I first started watching, it always seemed random and improv. It goes both ways. A lot of it is intentional. Late in the shot clock, a lot of it's improv. But early in the shot clock, especially in the 16 to 8 second range, the first offensive flow, most of it's intentional. And then after that, once it breaks down, if the defense stops what you're trying to get at first, then it becomes kind of a free-for-all, let's just play basketball. But more often than not, the first motion you see is all by design. Creative Juice said the Emerson guys can break down film like nobody's business. I appreciate that, Creative Juice. I appreciate that. Deshaun Howard, what's up? Says Borrego and Atkinson are my favorites of right now. Those are 2 of the 3 finalists, so there's a good chance one of your guys, Deshaun, will get hired. Chris, what's up? How you doing, man? Ray, what's up? How you doing? Slick says Keyshawn George is Derek White. Hey, if you can get Derek White with the 20th pick in this draft, we will be doing backflips in Cleveland. That would be a home run caliber pick if they can get a Derek White-esque player in Keyshawn George with the 20th pick. Any player, whether it's Keyshawn or somebody else, any one of those guys that can turn into Derek White, home run pick. Ray says he thinks they're trading that pick. It would not. Listen, the Cavs can go a million different directions. I have no idea. Nothing would surprise me. Literally, they trade up, they trade down. None of it would surprise me. Slick's talking about Kyle Ware. He's compared to Jared Allen. He can shoot. Jared Allen can't shoot threes. Kyle Ware can shoot threes. That's the big difference. Ware is a legitimate spacing the floor 3. So that is a little different, but yeah. DJ Brobot says it's getting boring watching the Cavs take 9 years to make a move. It's like they're waiting on the draft, free agency, and LeBron. Yeesh. Hey, I don't disagree. They've done their due diligence on coaches. I am always under the impression that if you know who's your guy, you go make him your guy. And the fact that this process has taken as long as it has makes me believe that somebody was the favorite. It didn't go as well. Wendy talked about Kenny Atkinson being the favorite from the get-go, and then maybe his interviews didn't go as well as anticipated. So now they're pivoting to someone else, which could be Borrego. But it is interesting that everything's taking forever. Now, Mitchell can't sign his extension until the finals is over. So that part of the equation we knew ahead of time, and maybe that's the first domino to fall, DJ Brobot, and then all the rest will fall right after. Boom, 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 boom. But I agree with you. I would love to get some moves because when we talk about free agents and potential moves, like who they need in a free agent and who they decide to trade or what they decide to target in the draft or trade depends on an offensive system. And we don't really know what that offensive system is going to be until they have a head coach. Bobby says, hit up the Pistons and go Cade for DG plus 20. Cade is a better fit. The Pistons would never do that in a million years. But Cade is a better fit. Let's see. DJ says, what a shocker. Mikey not want to trade Garland. It's like he sees himself in him when he can't play D, injury prone. Hey, I can't play D, but I was never hurt. So don't you dare put that on me. No, listen, I would trade Garland. Like I said, I would absolutely trade Garland. I just don't think the role player package is the route to go. And I'm not sure you're getting a Cat or an Ingram straight up. If you could do DG for Cat in some deal, like I'm in. I am in. I am not anti-trading Garland. I am anti-trading Garland for a couple role players and a pick. That's my big thing. If the right deal's on the table, I am all in. Garland, I appreciate what you've done, but we are improving the team. I just don't think a couple role players improves the team as much as DG getting back to his peak would be. A different star, that's a different story. I'm all in on that. But for the contract he has, I'm just not sure who that star you're getting back is unless it's Brandon Ingram straight up. And if that's the case, I'm in. If it's not, I'm out. Let's see. Rusty Wagner said you get a starting small forward for Garland. Nets team is loaded with them, and picks can be used to get players. That was one of the teams I mentioned yesterday as a potential trade partner. I don't think they're going to trade Mikal Bridges. I just don't think the Nets are going to give him up. But Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, those guys could be on the table. Yeah, I mean, that's – my dad's a Nets fan, and he gets frustrated with Cam Johnson. Dorian Finney-Smith's a good guy. He's a 3-and-D player. That's like the one package I think I could be talked into that doesn't have a legit star in it just because of the caliber of the players and the positional need. But I kind of stand by it. I just don't know if that raises your ceiling as high as I think you guys think it would be. So we'll see. Let's see. I got a couple more here. Chris says, do you think Jarrett not taking a shot affects his trade value? No, I don't. I don't. From everyone I've talked to, he has more value than Darius Garland right now. So if that's what I'm being told by multiple people who don't know each other, then I think his value is still exactly what it is. He's coming off the best season of his career. His value should be at an all-time high right now. And if the Cavs do decide to make a move for him, I think they're going to get back a pretty big haul. Let's see. Oil Grant says Ingram will be a rental with the exception thereafter of a supermax. Yeah, he's entering the final year of his deal. He's going to want $200 million after. So you're going to have to think of, is he worth it in that sense? If you like Ingram, he is. If you don't, he's not. I'm torn on Ingram. I don't love him as much as others, but he is certainly a massive upgrade over the current wings the Cavs have. And if he's the best you can get back, then you have to have a serious discussion and think about it for Allen and/or Garland. All right, guys, we went 42 minutes. Appreciate you guys tuning into the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. We'll be back next week or at the drop of a hat if the Cavs make a hire in the head coaching market and/or a trade or a signing. We will hop on immediately. Andrew says, give me Bronny at 20 to put the pressure on LeBron to come back. I give it a 5% chance, Andrew. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's likely they take Bronny at 20. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Peace.